And good evening, folks. We are live. This is the NEMRR off-season chat, episode 7. And tonight we're going to be talking about building a race bike and the cost of getting into racing. And we have our panel, Jason, Jamie, Andre, and we have one more who will probably pop in when he remembers he's supposed to be here. But we'll see if that happens or not. But anyway, this has been going. I've been doing this 7 weeks now, and we've always got a great panel on, and we've got great topics, and everybody seems to enjoy it. So with that, we'll go around the clock, and we'll do introductions. You can introduce yourself, how long you've been riding motorcycles, how long you've been racing, and we'll pass it right around the clock, and then we'll get into some questions about building a race bike and the cost and all that good stuff. So, Jason, why don't you go ahead and start it off?
Yeah, like probably a lot of people, started riding dirt bikes when I was a teenager. Got my racing license in 96, April of 96, the first round of Loudon Road Race Series. Raced that for about 5 years, XR 750. Then I got convinced to ride a 125, so I got a TZ 125 for a couple of years. I had a pretty good crash in 2001, so I hung it up. And then I came back about 20 years later, started again in 2021. Started right from the beginning again, back as a novice, riding a Ninja 300 for the last 3 seasons, and now I'm building this thing over here. So,
and we'll get into that in a minute. Jamie, 1 second. Frenchie, just so you know, we're going around the clock.
Okay.
Give an introduction, who you are, how long you've been riding motorcycles, and how long you've been racing. And it's going to go to Jamie, then Andre, and then over to you.
Okay.
All right. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yep. We can hear you
What do
too.
you say?
Go ahead, Jamie.
All right. I've been riding bikes probably 25 years-ish or something. Racing for 10 or 15 years, mostly supermoto, mini moto, flat track, motocross, J-days, all kinds of stuff. Did my first novice race last season at NEMRR after all the box shop people and supermoto people have kind of transferred over to NEMRR. And so yeah, just getting ready for that. Have a bunch of track days on sport bikes over the years as well. Probably 20 or 30 days on track.
Andre?
I don't really have much experience. I had a scooter back home, a Honda 10 cc's. In 2012, I moved to the United States. In 2016, I had my first chance to buy a motorcycle, and I bought a Gixxer 1000.
Wow.
I've had it for about 2 months, and maybe I put a few hundred miles on it because the weather was just always wet outside. Then I had to sell it because I realized I could not afford it. So that was a sad moment for me. And then finally I had another chance to buy another motorcycle, 2020. And I went for a Gixxer just because I didn't know much about them. And if I knew what I know now, I would have gone with something that at least has some electronics. So I bought a Gixxer 1000 again. That was somewhere towards the end of the summer of 2020. Did ride it for a little bit. Then one guy has mentioned about Penguin. So I looked them up. They required 1 track day. So I signed up for New York Safety Track. Did 1 track day. The very following weekend, I came to Loudon for round 1, got my license, and did 4 rounds, I think, 2021. I bumped to amateurs in my 2nd round, and then I did 2022 season, almost every round besides the 3rd.
Yeah, very good.
So that's all.
And Frenchie.
Yeah, so I guess just like Andre, I came to United States in 2011 or 12. Back there in Europe, I was doing mopeds and scooter and all these kind of things. Fortunately, I couldn't get a bike. Like, it was always mom said no. But then when I came in United States, the first thing was, okay, where's the closest racetrack? Where can I go? I did some track days. Bought my first bike here was Kawasaki 600. Then a bunch of supermoto, and then I started racing in, I guess, 2015 supermoto, and at the same time Loudon. Been like once in a while doing some novice amateur stuff, and then I really started racing like full season since 2 years now at NEMRR. So it's kind of I can't really do both. So I'm focusing more on NEMRR on the 600, I mean on the middleweight class. And yeah, so far so good.
All right, very good. Well, as you guys can see, we've got a very diverse group of people here. And I don't know if you guys have seen the previous ones. I raced back in the 90s into the early 2000s, mainly lightweight twin stuff, but I did race a 600 for a while. And then life happened, military career, and I just got back into it. As a matter of fact, I was there with Jamie last season. I think it was round 4, and been riding SV, and now I just bumped up to an RS 660, and that's what my build is. So now what I'd like to do is ask you guys what your current build is, or the last one that you built. So Jason.
Well, the last bike I had was a Ninja 300. I acquired that from another expert racer. We were just going to get a couple of 300s and go do track days. And a buddy of mine was getting divorced and said he wanted to go back racing. So I said, well, what the hell? I got a 300. So that's what we did. Did that for, I made every round last year on that bike and had a blast. But it's just long in the tooth and just, I don't know. I was getting smoked by SVs and Ninja 400s like crazy. So I looked at getting an SV. And it just seemed like old technology. I figured if I'm going to do this for another 5 years, I'm like, I might as well buy something that seemed to be a lot of people getting into. There's a lot of knowledge up there right now, a lot of parts floating around, a lot of spares floating around now, or at least starting to. So I figured, what the hell, I'll go buy a RS 660 as well. So I bought a 22 RS 660, and that was June of last year, and immediately started ordering parts because I knew with all the back orders and all the shipping delays and everything, I just kept hearing stuff like, it's going to be 3 months for a shock or 2 months for this. So I said, screw it. So I ordered everything that you could order out of the Woodcraft catalog, and just started ordering stuff from Sequence Sports Cycle.
All right, very good. Jamie?
Turn my mic back on. So last season I was running a bike I purchased from Sergio. It was a 21 FS450 Supermoto, and I heard that the 23s this year were going to be like a full redo. So I got all excited, sold the 21 at the end of last season, bought the 23. That was a little hard to find and track down, like everything, but finally did get that. Did a full build on that, and also did a full build on a Ninja 400 as a B bike for NEMRR and an A bike for USCRA, because I want to run. There's 2 days that USCRA runs races at Canaan, and I love Canaan. So as a way to race there, you can't run a motard with USCRA. They're anti dirt bike bars. So that's basically that. But it also gives me a B bike for Loudon. So that's where I'm at.
Andre?
Yeah, not much from me. I did some work on my Suzuki. I took that apart a few times, put it back together. But then last year I bought my BMW, 2021 BMW. And with that one, I've done a lot to it and still working on it. I have not much to say about experience, but that's what I'm working on, into a 2021 BMW right now.
Okay, and you're taking that from a street bike to a race bike?
Yeah, it was a brand new bike. And then now it's got full suspension, everything you need, and a lot of the things that you don't need, actually.
As we all do.
Yeah.
And Frenchie, Eli wanted to know if you were from England.
What? You think
Eli's
I'm
giving you a
England?
hard time in the chat.
Oh, I don't see it. What do you think? I'm from England? Somebody saying I'm from Ireland. Maybe it's the best compliment I ever had. No. I'm from France, like the real one.
I
So-
think he's just giving you a hard time because he can.
Oh yeah, but it's last time was running, so that's fine. What do I do for building? I've been building some supermodel, and I remember back in France, it was the year maybe 2000 when the supermodel started to work. I mean, you can buy a bike like that, but before I remember you had to pretty much make up the bike. You couldn't even find some 17-inch wheels or even brake setups or anything, so you had to like make them or find them from any other street bikes. So I did one or two of them. The first one didn't really work. The second one was okay. I come to America, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do the same thing. I didn't even know that woodcraft was a big thing, or you could find a lot of parts here. So same thing. I was starting to make my own parts, make some exhaust pipes. I guess I'm famous for I thought I had like the loudest exhaust pipe at Loudon. But I think worked actually. And then now I'm giving up on that. I don't really have time, so I'm just like everybody else. I go woodcraft technology. I just make the credit card smoke for the next NEMRR event. I guess when you go expert, you have to like start spending a lot of money on that. So yeah, here I am. I'm not as crazy as the other guys, but yeah, I like to just build parts because yeah, I guess it's part of racing. You build your own parts, you make them work. Kind of proud of it.
Yeah, that's definitely a lot of fun is fabricating stuff. If there's not something readily available, fabricating it. I've fabricated a lot of parts over the years. And back when I had a crazy EX500 back in the day that we had to fabricate a lot of mounts for it. I had an F2 front end, Honda F2 front end on it, and an F3 rear wheel on it. You had to make all the spacers and the brackets and all of that for the brakes. So that is a big part of it, especially when you're making stuff to make it better. I know personally, I've got a lot of woodcraft stuff on my bike as well. And by the way, if you guys have anybody that's helping you out, sponsors or anything like that, be sure to give them a plug. But Rob's Dyno Services helped me out with a lot. He's my main sponsor. And I had almost all the parts I needed to put the RS together before I even had the bike. The bike was sitting in Atlanta, paid for, and the shipper was kind of jerking us around. So I just said, no, the hell with it. And I jumped in the truck on a Friday, drove down to Atlanta, picked the bike up and brought it back. So, but it's 99%. And I feel what you're saying, Jason, about waiting on parts, because my Olin stuff has been on order for a while now, right, and I won't see it until the end of February. Yeah, so I'll have it for the NEMA races, but I won't have it. I leave next Friday for Georgia, and I'm doing the first Armor round at Roebling Road, which is my old home track. So I'll be on stock suspension on the RS, but I'm going to be racing the SV down there as well. So that's all back together and ready to go. All right. And here's another question. And this is dealing with, either building your own race bike or buying one that's been previously built by someone else, or a new bike and just have somebody else build it for you. I mean, there's pros and cons to both. My SV, I bought it last year, came with a big thick logbook. He had all the receipts for everything, but I still had no idea what was in the motor. And of course now I do, because we had to redo the top end on it. And that's one of the drawbacks to buying something that's already built when you don't know exactly what's built into it. But I've done both. I've bought a race bike, and then this is the third one I've built. So from way back to now, the RS was 100% stock, like it came off the showroom, and now it's a race bike. So, Jason, what do you think about either building or buying?
I've done it both ways a couple of times. And, the budget says buy one that's already built, because honestly, it's the biggest bang for the buck. And if you can get it from somebody and he's a fellow racer or she is, and you know that it's been taken care of. This time around, I figured, you know what? I shopped at a few SVs, looked at a few SVs, looked at Roland Sands, or not Roland Sands, but Thomas Sands' is RC390. And I'm like, I'd love to buy it, but again, it's a 5-year-old, 6-year-old bike that a guy's been riding every year. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to bite the bullet and spend the money this time, and everything new. Lean on the knowledge of people that I know what they're doing. So, especially Seco. So if I'm going to spend some money, I want to give the money to the guys up there and the companies that are supporting us directly up there. So, I talk a lot with Adam Kells over at AK Race Fab, over at Seco Sports Cycle, Daryl Blooms, especially through Superbike Supply. He's running an RS 660 now. So I leaned on him a lot, and the guys at Seco. So, I'm not like these guys. I'm not an expert rider. Very fabrication experience. I just want to get to the track and ride. I don't want, if it breaks, I'm going home. So unless somebody can help me out and give me a part or something. But yeah, realistically, I think, budget wise, buy one that's already built. If you're getting into it, buy one that's built, ride it for a few years, gain some experience, and then, if life lets you spend the money, go spend the money, build one.
Jamie?
So yeah, I'd say pretty much the same thing. Buy one that's built if you can. From my experience, I've done it both ways. I think it's about double the cost to build your own bike, especially if it's like a newer bike where there's not a bunch of, if you buy an older SV or something, there's like a ton of parts kicking around you can get from people. But like I bought this 23 bike, and there's a lot of parts aren't even available for it yet. Like I have the very first catch pan that this company in England's making and stuff, like things like that. I had to work with Scott's damper to make a new damper setup for the 23s, which are a little bit different than the 22s. So like big pain in the ass, one supplier, big costs. So definitely buying a bike. And I bought that 21 from Sergio last season. It's like, man, I can see what I paid for that and what I've got into this is like crazy, the difference. Also, that said, I spent like 15 years as a professional mechanic working on cars and bikes, and I have a little bit different vibe with like, I do not want to work on bikes. Like, I'm here to race, and the last thing I have zero interest in like building bikes from being burnt over the years of that. I think it's a lot of people like building them and they think it's fun, but to me, I'm like the easiest. If I could buy a race ready bike, which the FS almost is, and that's one of the reasons why I chose it. That's awesome because I don't want to build it. I don't want to play with bikes. I just want to race. So yeah, that's kind of my stance on that.
Andre?
For me, I think I don't think I have good hands like you guys to build parts for your bikes. And I have actually a 2008 R6 already built, and I brought that thing home. It just sits there. I don't have to worry about it. I just can't wait to ride it. I think I was lucky that the rider was my height, pretty much. I sat on it. I took it for a spin around the neighborhood. It felt perfect, and it just sits there. I think it's a good way to go for it because you will never, like for me, I spent so much money on my BMW. If I want to sell it now, I cannot get that money back. No way. Even that is just most of the stuff went on it now this winter. So I think buying a already built is the best way to go. if you like to work on bikes and you have good hands and you have the time and you have the money, I mean, you can build your own. I have my days. Sometimes I go to the garage and things just fall into place. Everything works perfect. I enjoy my time. I learn things. I don't know much, but sometimes I go there and just by installing the wheel back and putting the wheel back is just not going in. It's how it's going on, and I just have to leave it, walk away, and come back the next day. So I'll definitely go for already build.
Yeah, financially, that's definitely the way to go. How about you, Frenchie?
I'm gonna say it depends on who am I going to buy the bike from. Do I want to buy like Eric Wood's bike, which was actually, I guess, cheap for what was on the bike? Do I want to be like ridiculous on that bike? No thanks. I want to do some like 119 whatever on the bike. I can do 111. But I guess you want. It depends. It's gonna be cheaper unless right now all the prices go crazy. But if you already have a budget, if you have the patience, if you have you already want to get the bike, all the setup you want. Like Eric Wood's bike, I'm sure he's got some stuff that I will never need. So I might be able to make a bike that is cheaper than his bike and just the way I want it. So it depends on your level. It depends on the person you're buying from. You can have. I don't know. I would go with buying a street bike and building it the way I want.
And Samir wants to know if you'll build his bike for him.
Like someone's gonna have to build it for him.
He's in the chat. You've got a fan club in the chat.
Oh my
That's
God.
one thing you can't see on a phone.
No,
I actually did see his.
Well, I bring it up on the screen.
You know what? You can invite him to that chat, maybe. Get a lot of questions.
So,
Scared.
yeah, and I do agree. If you could find one that's built, it's definitely going to be cheaper. But then again, as Frenchie said, if you build it, you can build it the way you want it, and that makes a big difference as well. And when it comes to like, I'm just skipping around on some of the questions because I didn't have them in any really good way to go around. When you're building a bike, I found, for instance, I'm building the Aprilia RS 660. So I did a little bit of research. I found some good research and I found some kind of piss poor research in regards to questions I had. And even now, I know I text back and forth with Jason a lot. Hey, how did you do this? What did you do this? That's one of the things that I do is I do a lot of research on it. Did you find that there was some really good research? And I know, Jason, you tapped into some of the locals, but did you do a lot of research before you started the build?
Yeah, a bit. Like I say, I leaned on Daryl Blooms a lot because he's got one, and we share a garage space. So looking at his bike really got me jazzed up to get one. But knowing that Seacoast, in Derry, they build probably 15 to 20 of these a year. So they come out. So I just leaned on them. They're just a couple of towns over, so I stopped in there. They were great. They gave me direction on suspension, and the reasons why they would choose K-Tech, because they're easy to get parts for. They're readily available. They don't have to wait for anything. Kind of steer me in the direction of the exhaust to use for Loudon. So they kind of made most of the decisions for me. I just had to buy the stuff and install it. And then the things that I'm not comfortable doing, I brought the bike to them and had them do. But yeah, I mean, honestly, just finding somebody who running what you want to run and just ask 1,000 questions and, take the pros and cons and the advice that they have and it works out for you. Again, I only rode the bike 9 miles. I rode it from the shop home and it's been sitting here since it's been done. So the first time I ride it, it'll be on the track in April. Who knows how it's going to go? But, again, I'm finding a few things that I don't like that I want to have corrected, but I kind of need somebody with a little bit more knowledge than I have with fabrication and skills. I'll ship it off over to AK Race Fab sometime this spring and have them finish it up, and hopefully it'll be 100% then, and we'll see.
Jamie, how about you?
All right, so I have a lot of experience from other kind of racing, so I like compared and contrast NEMRR to that stuff a lot. And one thing that I've noticed as far as like research and like sharing information is it's held pretty tight. And I think it makes a little sense because, I think, bike setup and motor and stuff plays a bigger role in this kind of racing. Like if you're like off-road racing, you can help the guy next to you. Like the spread is so large that like his bike tuning isn't really changing anything, like it just doesn't seem like it matters. Or maybe it's just culturally different or whatever, but come from Supermoto, Frenchie knows from there, like everybody there is sharing everything. Like your direct competitor will like give you, if you think something's wrong on your bike, he'll tell you like how to make that better, even though you're number 2 and he's number 1, so I find that to be a little different in this scene, which is what it is, I guess, somewhat. I think there is some helpfulness, but so I have that 23 FS, and so that's brand new. I was definitely in the first wave of getting it, so it's like zero information. There's still a lack of information out on some things, but as I'm gaining stuff, and a lot of information is coming overseas. There's a guy in Spain that owns something called Supermoto Land, and he's putting out a bunch of information, and so I'm trying to get it from different places. And as I'm putting that together, I'm trying to funnel it out to everybody, which I think is maybe not in my best interest, but I think brings a better vibe to hobby racers. We're all getting plastic trophies, and I'd rather see everybody having a good time. So I'm doing whatever I can do to help and change that, if that is the thing, just because that's the culture I'm from in different forms of racing. Outside of that, I have that Ninja 400 I built as well. There's a lot of information around on those because they've been around for a while. A lot of people I know have moved on from those, and Claudia, whoever. So people who are no longer racing 400s will give you all their 400 tips and tricks because that doesn't matter anymore, So that's a good resource. But all that said too, I don't think there's a lot of. I think at the in the amateur levels and even backpack expert probably. I don't think bike setup's super duper critical. I think people might put more weight on it than really needs to be. As obviously you don't want the glaring issues like a 400, the clutch issues. If you haven't taken care of the major things, then I think you're gonna have a problem. But I think people are really nitpicky between K-Tech, Olin's, or what it's probably only matters, tip of the spear of racers.
Andre, how about you? Did you do a lot of research on that BMW before you started?
You guys kind of breaking up. I'm not sure if it's my internet or. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yep, we can hear you.
So I love to help people, but like I said, I don't have good hands and I don't have much to offer. So I'm the guy with 1,000 questions. And when it comes down to BMW, not a lot of guys race BMWs at our track, but I'm lucky to have 2 guys. One is Cameron Pelke, that is a BMW dealer, and I bought the bike from him. And sometimes I text him at 11:30 at night because something is bugging me, and I have to have the answer now, otherwise I won't sleep. So I ask him a ton of questions all the time, and Jason. I'm not gonna say his last name because I think nobody can pronounce that one. He also races a BMW, and I also ask him a lot of questions. But if I go online and to do some research, I've done it. I searched everything possible, and there is some. Most of the time, what I try to do is if I watch a video of a race build bike from anybody that races, I pause it and I zoom in and I look at how those bars stay, or what brand does it use for this section, or what's that. So that's another way I kind of look for things. Some parts when you buy them, they come in with instructions and kind of easy to follow. But some things they show up and there is no paper and it's just a part, and then you have to figure out how it goes. And again, as I try to figure out, I think I spend a lot of time trying to figure out compared to what exactly I'm doing. Just the other day, I finally got rid of the ABS and I had to run the straight line from the master cylinder to the front calipers. And I bought them from, I think, Alpha Racing, and they're specifically for my bike, obviously. And no matter how you turn them, it just does not look the right way. And I asked Cameron, he said he runs them from behind the triple, and I tried that. It doesn't even reach the caliper. So I think I spent a good hour and a half trying to figure it out, and I did at the end, but I still think it does not look right to me. So after it's still not done 100%, but when it will be done, I'll take a few pictures, and then obviously I'll send them to Cameron and see what he says. But that's what I do.
I never thought about watching guys on the track and freeze framing and zooming in on their bikes. That's not a bad idea for some stuff.
Yeah, I go on Google, I search BMW race motorcycle, because if you say race bike, I feel like sometimes a bunch of pictures that you might want are not there. You have to say motorcycle specifically. And yeah, I do have a lot of them, a lot of screenshots actually on my phone that I zoom in and I take a screenshot, and then when I go to the garage, I look, it's like, okay, does mine match that one? So it's kind of I don't know, not as the smartest way to do it, but it works for me. I think it's just, at the end, there's only a few ways to do certain things. There's only one way to do it. So it goes in, it doesn't, then it's wrong.
Frenchie, how about you?
I'm not sure. Is that legal to take pictures like that, or?
He's giving away a trade secret by taking pictures.
Yeah, I can do that. The research, you've been doing a couple of research and you hear them all from, yeah, you should buy this, you should get that, you should. And the one you want to follow is when the person tells you, no, you don't need that. What you need is just practice on your riding. You need to, this is not the bike, it's just you. And for the rest, yeah, I've been calling like Paul Duval every night and say, hey, Paul, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Until he gives up and say, all right, this is what you need. This is what you get. This is what needs to be done on the bike. I'm like, okay, that's it. It's not that bad. And that's true. All the rest is just the rider. You can look at some bikes and some guys still have the OEM suspension on them. So you're like, okay, am I just wasting some money on that? Yeah, pretty much.
That's very true.
Nobody wants to give up their little secrets, but I guess everybody knows, like there's no big secret with those bikes now anymore. It's not like we are building some crazy engines, or everybody goes to the same place. Everybody does the same thing.
So I'm going to take a question out of the chat. Samir asked, how much time and money do you guys have into your race bikes?
I think that's more for me then.
I'm not going to put a dollar amount on mine, only because my wife's in the house, and she actually bought the bike for me. And I'll tell you what I paid for it. It's a 2021 RS 660, 3,000 miles on it. And I got it from a friend of mine who owns a dealership in Georgia. He owns 2 dealerships, and I paid $8,000 for it. So that's what I paid for the bike. Now, when you start looking at, I should have brought my notebook over here because I've got a list that's this long or longer of everything I've had to add. I'm gonna guess I'm probably between 13 and 14,000 total in for the entire build. And that's with my sponsor giving me like crazy deals on everything. Plus I lucked out, and Hindel's making an exhaust for it now, which is very inexpensive. It sounds great. I'm going to have to put the DB killer in it when I go to Roebling because I'm going to bust sound. They actually have sound limits at Roebling Road. So I'm probably going to have to put that in it while I'm down there, but I'll wait and see. So, Jason, I know you went new on everything. So yours is going to be up there.
You know, I tried a few different seats, and two out of the 3 I didn't like. Because I bought the bike new, I didn't want to use anything stock on the bike. I wanted to save all that stuff in case, you know, someday I decide I want to put it back to the street or something. So basically all the stock stuff are my spares right now. So if I wreck something, I'm going to have to put the stock stuff on. But yeah, as far as cost, I bought a brand new bike, you know, and then all the parts, but you know, I knew I was going to spend the money, and I just wanted to spend it with the guys and the companies that support us directly up at NEMRR. So, you know, I stuck with all Woodcraft, everything in the Woodcraft catalog that he offers for the RS 660. I bought a handful of AK Race Fab parts, and Seacoast Sports Cycle. They were able to provide all the other stuff that I really needed. They'll put together different build lists for you. So if you buy one of these, you know, depending on how extensive of a build you want to go, they'll put together the parts list and the parts you need and the cost for that to build one for you. So I just kind of went off of that and bought most everything that I knew I could install myself, did all that, saved on the labor, and then just paid them to do the, you know, I had to have the tires changed. So I figured, well, while they have it there, do the suspension, you know, do the ABS delete, swap out brake pads, the simple stuff that you're already there. But as far as total cost, I mean, you know, it's in the 20s at this point. So, but I figured it's a brand new bike that'll be good for, you know, I figure 5 years I'll get out of it. And then I'll be 55 and it's time to, you know, go home and ride a bicycle again. So.
Well, don't say that. I just turned 64.
You're dragging us out there, you know, the old bucks. But, you know, again, I like the really lightweight bikes. I was going to buy an NSF 250, but there are no classes to ride it in. You know, and if you get bumped, I mean, you know, as a novice, you can pretty much race in anything for the most part. It's not that selective, so you can kind of have fun with it. Once you get bumped to amateur and expert, you know, they're obviously way more picky about the machine and what class you're running in. So that's why I chose not to buy that bike. Now I'm kind of thinking I should have, because I could have got it for half of what I got into this thing now. And it would have been race ready, and I could have had a bunch of spares. But, you know, I really haven't started spending money on the spares. So we'll see where that goes. But, you know, I'll try to get little bits and pieces throughout the spring and throughout the year. But yeah, definitely it's already built. Save yourself the money.
Jamie?
All right, so my Ninja 400, I've got about $8,500 into. That was buying a 21 salvage bike, actually off of ex-NEMRR guy. I forget his name, but he used to race. I think his kid's racing now or something. If you're out there and listening, sorry, I forgot your name. But I got who was it?
Is it Steve?
Might have been Steve. Out of it's like Mass, something Medford, Mass, maybe or something. I forget. I don't know, but so I got a 21 salvage bike that was all smashed up, but you know, mechanically good. So I stripped all that off and did a bare minimum 400 build, including like, I got a set of bodywork from a buddy. And one thing that's nice about the 400s, they race them in like, Thailand and Philippines and stuff like that. So there's a bunch of like Asian parts available for it that are, not quite Woodcraft level, but definitely not, China garbage either. So they're somewhere in the middle there. So it has some of that stuff on it. And it's got Adriani cart in the front, and then a Gixxer, the factory Gixxer 750 shock on the back, which is a pretty typical. I think a lot of the Loudon guys are running that on the 400s. Pretty typical, like, step before you go full bore setup, and that's $8,500. So that's like bare minimum for a 400 bill. You're talking $8,500, and then the FS 450. Nice thing about those are mostly like, they're race prepped out of the box. Most of the prepping I'm doing after is just like for tech stuff, fluid catching and hose routing, drilling. They did have to do the stabilizer on that because the one thing that they don't come with, a couple little things. But I'm probably about, it's like 12, I think it was like 12.7 for that thing out the door, and then probably $2,000 of shit on it after, so not too bad. Those bikes are definitely a great, like, easy way in, because it's like, you just kind of buy it and go. The only problem is you can put a per hour cost on running them, because they're full rebuilds at 100 hours and a top end refresh at like 50-60. So, and if they grenade, which they do grenade pretty frequently, especially in years past, not so much, as they've seemed to have kind of gotten better about the grenading, but if they grenade, you're talking, it's like a lot of times worth more than the bike at that point to put a new motor in it. I know a lot of guys with 450s that have grenaded engines, and they just essentially are sitting in the garage like that. So other than that little flaw on the Motards, they're great kind of value in and no real work. You could buy a bike off the showroom, do a few things and race it, but you just got to watch the hours. I try not to like, track day that thing too much. That's another reason for the 400 is, if I'm doing track days with buddies or whatever, I'll ride that. So I'm not putting hours on the FS, but yeah, that's where I'm at in money.
Andre.
Yeah, me and my wife, we own a business. So in 2020, 2021, we did amazing. And that's why I ended up buying a brand new motorcycle, and I went for a BMW. And I put a ton of money into it just because I could. When I look back and how much money I was making before, I didn't even have a motorcycle. Let's put it that way. That's why, I'm at right now, because I have it written down, and I took it with me specifically for tonight. I've written down absolutely every little thing that I bought for the BMW, and besides the bike, as of right now, I'm at a little shy of $16,000. With this bike is interesting because every little thing that you unplug, like it has electronic suspension. If you want to put race suspension, you need some kind of plug to, otherwise you'll get some kind of fault on the dash. And that costs a few $100s. And then if you remove the ABS, for example, it's like $350 just for that little plug, just to get rid of the codes on the dash again. And what else is there? I also bought a BMW from Copart, because when I bought my 2021 BMW, I took the clip-ons off right away, because I remember reading a review that if the way they have the clip-ons, if you drop it, just like standing and you drop it, it will bend the forks and it will cost you more money. So going for aftermarket is the best way. So that bike had 0 miles on it, and I already had clip-ons on it and full protection around it. I think I have Woodcraft. I always go Woodcraft first, and I buy everything I can from them. And then now I learned that Alpha Racing is the main place to go to for parts for a BMW. They have absolutely everything. You can get lost into their, you can fill up that cart, just go through it, and just keep adding. And then when you look, it's like 10 grand easy. So yeah, I'm at close to 16 right now. For that Copart one, I bought it just because it was the same color as mine, and I'm not sure if what is it, Jamie? I think you're talking about Steve. His son is Nick, racing a Kawasaki, I think 600.
Yeah, that's who it is. Yep.
That's what he does. He loves doing that. So he helped me out with this, and same color as my first bike. So in the pictures, at first it looked like it's just some scratches, but now I ended up buying the rear wheel, and then the front wheel, and then some other cracks here and there, the front forks. So it kind of adds up to almost a brand new bike. You never know what you get into when you buy things from Copart, but the thing, at least it runs good, has no issues, and now it's almost brand new. I'm waiting for the front wheel to come and just replace the coolant in it, and it will be like brand new bike. All my parts, because I put my BMW on the racetrack as soon as I turned 600 miles, and I went through the BMW dealer to get rid of the rev limiters and some other stuff, and I put it on the track. So all my fairings, even the tires, were like brand new on it. No scratches. Yep. 16 is where I am. That's besides the bike. The bike itself, it was like close to $20,000. And that was almost, it was like an M package. If you guys know the difference between the M package and the regular BMW, it's not much, but Cameron gave me a good deal. It's pretty much an M package bike, just doesn't have the M seat on it. But and I paid the price for just a base model. So that kind of saves some money over there.
Yeah, that's the thing when you get into the big bikes. It's exponentially more expensive as you go up.
Yeah, like my wife says, it's a leaking faucet.
It's
Never
a boat
stops.
a boat with a hole in it.
Yep.
Frenchie?
I don't know. Am I the cheapest guy here or what? I thought I don't know. I'm probably right now at $8,000 on the prep with the bike, but I've never been. I mean, I get my bike very very cheap post just before the COVID. I probably paid $2,500 for an R6 at that time, and now that same bike costs I guess $7,000. So I guess I made some money, and I'm not. I bought the suspensions. They were not new for maybe $2,000, and all the rest. Like I say, I'm going fancy this year. I'm buying the parts that I want, except for the engine. I don't want to open the engine, but I'm guessing, yeah, $8,000 will be the limit. I already fixed myself a budget for the year, and and that's pretty much it. You know you're gonna wreck the bike at some point. So if it's $20,000, or you just need one bad eyesight, the bike flips, and it's total, and that's it. So I'm not gonna put like a crazy amount of money on that, and I'm not proud of putting a lot of money on it. I guess it's better when you get something with a discount, or if you get the good deal, you get.
It's different when you can afford it and when you can't. A lot of these stuff that I have on the bike, I don't need them. I just got them because I don't know, some of them look cool and some of them make life easier.
Oh, I know. Like you're going fancy, you get a $20,000 bike on the racetrack. You're like, what the hell? Are you crazy? You got five SV for that price.
Hey, maybe I'll let you ride it one day. See how it feels.
I got 12 bikes, dude.
There's nothing wrong with trying to do it as cheap as you can, and I tried to do it as cheap as I could, but like I said, if it wasn't for Rob up at Rob's Dyno Service, I wouldn't have this bike ready till next season. But he made it very easy for me to take my wallet and go and just shake everything out of it.
at the same time, what I want is race as much as I can, do some track days, and yeah, I just want to ride as much as I can. So I don't count on track days. We went to North Carolina. I could go to Florida right now. But that's why I want to save a lot of money on the bike. I know it can just flip, and that's it. The bike is right.
Yeah, Frenchie, you're definitely doing it right. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, definitely. Plus, it gives you more money for a budget for travel if you want to go to other tracks. You know, budgets are a big thing. And there's a lot of these questions we're probably not going to get to, but because I like to try and keep it at an hour, because if you go much more than an hour, people get bored with you and you don't get the views and stuff. But there was one question, and I had this question when I came back to it, and it's in regards to steering stabilizers or steering dampers. Back then, every organization I raced with, whether it was back then, it was NASB was the big promoter for the 200 and did the 883 Twin Cups and all that stuff. So every organization I was with, you had to have a steering damper on the bike. Didn't matter. My Harley 883 race bike had a steering dampener that was like this long, bolted to the side of it. And it was pretty much worthless, but you had to have it on the bike. And I wanted to get everybody's thoughts on that. I put one on the RS. Whether it's really needed or not, I don't know, but it does have one on there only because I believe ARMA requires one. But I wanted to hear everybody else's thoughts on steering dampers. Jason?
Yeah, I mean, my last bike, I didn't have one on it, but every other bike I've had one on it. Again, you've got a pretty short straightaway at Loudon. I don't know if you're not gonna get any of this really. Maybe some of the really fast guys do, but I've never experienced it there, even on the 750. I had one, came on my TZ 125, came from the factory that way. I mean, I don't know if it would be any different without it, but like you say, the RS 660 doesn't come with one, but everybody puts them on. So again, I took the advice of everyone who knows more about the bike than I do, and I had one installed. So we'll see. Maybe I'll pull mine off and you can run with yours, and we'll see who likes it more or less, you know?
Jamie?
All right, so I think Wera is the only group that you have to have one in now, and that's kind of like an old holdover. And I know a lot of the Wera guys are running those China, because you can go on eBay and buy a damper from China for like $50, and it's just like looks like a damper basically, but it's not one. It doesn't actually function, I don't think. So, which seems to me like more dangerous than to put some China crap on it than it is to not have anything. But that's whatever. I think from my research and talking to people and my experience, which is somewhat limited, I think it's bike dependent. I think some bikes have a tendency to tank slap more so than others. Probably pace dependent too. I know the motards are famous for it because the rake and the trail, whatever, like the fork angle is really steep. So that bike is, even with the damper on it, is twitchy as hell. Like, you know, at speed, those motards aren't really designed for those speeds. Like even over 7.8 is crazy at Loudon on those things. Definitely down the straight too, but probably even worse over 7.8. I think a lot of other bikes get shake over 7 and 8 as well. But yeah, I think some bikes they don't need it. It's kind of a bummer because I think sometimes you don't want to have that dampening like at lower speeds. You know, like 1A, 2, 3. Like you don't really want to damper through there, but then you need it later. So I know some of the newer, fancier bikes, they had speed dependent dampers, where they go on at higher speeds and off at lower speeds. That'd be nice, but there's not really an aftermarket set up for that, I don't think.
Scott, you can adjust on the Scots where it dampens and where it doesn't.
You
So I've
can
got
you can adjust three things. You can adjust the sweep, so like you can adjust that if after like however much the bars are moving, like 10 degrees off center or 15 degrees off center. So you can adjust the sweep, and then you can adjust the low speed circuit and the high speed circuit. But it doesn't. That speed is the speed of the oscillation, not the speed of the bike. So it would be nice to have fully free handlebars at 30 miles an hour, but locked up really solid handlebars at 80, but and some of the factory bikes like the factory 1000 RRs, the CBRs, and I think Gixxers, a bunch of bikes had that on them factory, and I think there were some aftermarket upgrades for those bikes that have that speed sensing setup. But yeah, I think ultimately it's better than a tank slapper so disastrous, and even just the beginnings of it is puckers your butthole enough to slow you down. That I think it's worth having. But also, I was talking to Ben about it, and Ben told me it's nice. And in kart tracks Supermoto, we like the bike to slide around a lot. Like we really want the bike to be able to step out side to side, but the dampers actually help road racing to keep the bikes more in line. So it's not so much even just a tank slapper, it's actually like keeping the entire chassis in line, which is interesting. I never really thought about it like that. But when you ride them, if you ride a Supermoto damper, no damper, you do notice that. Like it really, it feels like light and loose without one, which is nice sometimes, but not at speed, obviously. And then when you put a damper on, the bike definitely tracks more like a sport bike or something. So that's my info.
Andre?
On my Suzuki, it had the stock damper, and on the track at Loudon on the straightaway, that bike definitely felt planted on the ground and didn't ever need it to, like, I didn't even notice if how important it was until one winter I took it off. I was doing work on the bike, and I took the bike for a ride around the neighborhood, and it was scary. Just on I accelerated a little bit, and the wheel came up. When it went down, it started doing this so easy. It was like, oh man, it's shaking a lot. So I went back and I put it back on right away. With the BMW, I definitely go much faster on the straightaways. I think I go up to like 148. I think was the highest I went on by the breaking point. My BMW, I think I don't know what exactly it's doing, but the bike is definitely has the wheel more up in the air, almost the whole straightaway, at least past the start finish line. And the front just goes left, right, and I'm dealing with it a lot. So I kept telling everybody about this, that I'm dealing with this problem, and then I forget who it was came and tightened the steering damper, and I went back out, and it was much less of that. So we tightened all the way maximum and still did it a little bit. So now I ended up buying I think Ohlins makes it. Ohlins, right? Or Brembo. Ohlins, I think, yeah. So I have one of those right now. Don't know if that's going to make a big difference. I hope so, because especially at Thompson, the way it is and the way they explain it to me, because on the straight, the front just keeps bouncing, like bounces up and down. And because of the steering damper, if you don't have one, I think you're not gonna make it to the end of the straightaway at Thompson on 1,000. Just the wheel just keeps going up and down and left and right the whole time, all the way to the board 6, whenever you brake. So I'm very excited to see actually the difference between the stock one and the racing one. Hopefully we'll fix that problem, because it takes the confidence away from me. At Loudon, I usually brake past the board 4, like close to like 3. But after like getting a lot of this, and later on, I start coming out of the corners a little bit more faster, and I think by the end I go faster. I can't brake at what I used to, so that's because of just so much shaking, and I can't really see anything in front of me, and takes the confidence away. So I think the steering damper is very important.
When you turned it up, did you notice it was worse in the slower speed corners? Like
Oh
right
yeah,
where you're fighting
oh yeah. It's like barely moving.
Yeah, that's the bummer, right? Is you can't win
Yeah.
both.
The worst part is leaving the pit. Yeah, when you leave the garage and then you turn the weight, depending how you come on the pit. I have to do like a 180. Oh no, yeah, it's 180. Like I turn around, a U-turn kind of, and I
Yeah.
have to go from the right all the way to the left. So yeah, I think it's important, and especially going over the hill over there. If you get a little wheelie, and you land it a little bit sideways, you're definitely gonna get a little bit of wobble, and that will stop it.
Frenchie, how about you? What's your thoughts on it?
To me, there's no question. Just for that turn 7-8, yes, you need a steering damper. It's not just about, you're going to wheelie on the front straight. Maybe you do something wrong with the bike. Maybe you don't get it tight. But that day you make that little mistake on 7-8, the bike's going to shake very hard. And there's no way you're on the angle. You can't brake. You can't do nothing. You need a steering damper. And maybe you just adjust it too hard or too low. But once you find the right adjustment, that thing just goes perfect.
Yeah, I think going over 7, right after 7, there is a little bit of a flat spot over there, and if you flip it right over it, the wheel kind of the front is in the air, and you can get a little bit of wobble if you're not doing it right.
Yeah,
So that
Yeah.
was
a lot between the.
Loudon's definitely a very technical track, and it's pretty rough too. I'm hoping
the best one.
the upgrades they're making to the track for this year, I hope they work out pretty well.
I hope they don't touch it.
Yeah. Are you in for the Loudon Classic?
Yeah, yes, I am, but I think I'm the very last person to be on that list, but I'm on it.
Very good.
Just Samir.
Yep.
Samir and Mike, yeah,
Second.
Mike Lee.
Well, we'll be rooting for you for sure. I've got one more question I'm going to go over, and then we'll just we'll do a little general chat, and because we're already at an hour. What's your advice in regards to the cost of getting started? Now, I'm talking somebody. Take for instance, Way. She started last year. She went to the rider school and stuff, or she went to a track day, and that day she bought a race bike. But so getting started, you've got all of your equipment, a bike, all of that stuff. Do you guys have any suggestions? Because it is a big expense. I had to buy all new leathers last year. I had to get a new helmet, gloves, boots, back protector. And then, of course, I bought a pre-built bike, and it did me well for those 4 sessions. But then I started having some engine troubles. But it's really an expensive sport to get into from scratch. So if anybody's got any recommendations, I mean, granted, you can get up almost 5 years out of a helmet. Your leathers, so long as you don't spend a lot of time on the ground, you're usually pretty good. Boots, I mean, I don't think my feet are going to get any bigger at my age. So I think I'm good as far as that stuff goes. Jason, what do you think about it?
I just, I think if you're getting into it, if you're going to spend the bulk of your money, should be spent on the best safety gear you can buy. So get the best helmet you can afford, get the best set of leathers. There are certainly better leathers than others. There are better boots than others. Get an airbag vest, get the best stuff that you can possibly afford, to do something dangerous as safely as you can do it, and worry about the bike later. Just get out there and ride. I mean, we all get starry-eyed looking at brand new bikes and new parts, and everybody wants, and you talk to the fast guys who've been doing it for 20 or 30 years up there. They don't give a shit about that stuff. It's, get the best safety gear you can get and seat time. And spend your money on, Friday practice. Do Friday practice and get good safety gear, and the rest will follow. Again, I'm still slow as shit. but I'm learning. And for me, it's always just me against the course. I'm not really dueling it out or duking it out with too many people. I did a little bit last year, and that's it. I just want to go home on Sunday and feel like I was a little bit better than I was the last round. But again, spend the money on the safety gear. That's it.
Jamie?
Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely spend the money on safety gear. There's it's always that tough thing when you get into a new thing. It's like, do you want to buy cheap stuff and like feel it out? Because you don't want to be the guy who bought all the best of everything, went to one round and never came back. That happens. But you also don't want to be out there on definitely subpar safety gear. But I'll say I kind of did that. Like, not really subpar, but I kind of dipped my toes in as cheap as I could. Now I have over this winter about the best of everything: best boots, best leathers, airbag, all that. Which is a huge investment. So I can't imagine like trying to get a buddy into this and being like, oh yeah, you're gonna need, $3,000 on gear, on top, and that's not even the bike at all. Like, but at the same time, you don't want to send a buddy out on subpar stuff. So it's like that's a tough angle there. I don't really know how you slice that. I rolled my own dice on that one, but yeah. So that, and then the bike, just do whatever you can there, but definitely safety gear first. I wish it was cheaper. I wish there was a better way to share gear or something, but the forces involved at road racing. I guess supermoto, pretty common for people to, you have a buddy come in, you can call up somebody and who has extra this, extra that, put them together, everybody pitches in, he's off and going, but it's a different level of forces there, when you're 60 mile an hour top or something like that. So it's, I don't know. It's a tough one.
Andre?
My advice would be buy a small bike, like a 400. Don't buy 1,000 right away. I think I'm missing out a lot by just jumping straight on 1,000. There's just so much more to learn on a 400, and obviously I can get beat by some of those kids on 400s at Loudon, and I'm on one of the best bikes. So it helps to go fast on the straight, but it slows you down everywhere else pretty much, because I don't have that much of experience. I don't know a lot about it. I'm still learning. So yeah, my advice is get a small bike. Plus you'll save money on tires. I notice now I cannot have a tire for more. If I cannot do 4 races. If one of them will be a GTO. One side of it is better than the other, and the worst one is like gone. And then you lose time on that. Then it takes your confidence away. You start losing the rear. It's kind of a good way if you want to learn it to slide the rear, but I think it's early for me, and that takes the confidence away, and then I go slower. So yeah, a small bike, definitely safety gear. I always have my back protector on. I always have my chest protector on. I have I'm an Alpine Star guy. I tried other suits, and Alpine for me is the best. Fits good, and it just takes away that mobility kind of. So, but it's also very safe. So that's another thing. Don't spend your money on these crazy schools where $1,500 for a day or for 2 days. I think Penguin School, take the class, as many classes as you can. I think my first year, I did 4 rounds, and I think I did 4 classes with them. And I took I think the Thompson they go sometimes, and then safety track. I did the Thompson one. I go with them everywhere I can because there's always something new to learn. Always something new to learn. And I watch a lot of videos there's so much online. There's some guys that go so much into details. It helps so much. And you don't need to spend a lot of money to become fast. That's for sure.
No, a lot has to do with talent too.
And you have to be a little crazy if you want to go fast.
That helps
That's
a
great.
lot.
Andre, can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
You're on a bike with electronics, right? Traction control, wheel control, all that stuff. You think that's a hindrance in learning? Like, do you think you should have started on a bike without that stuff?
I mean, if you start on a small bike, you learn certain things, and that's from what others tell me. Like corner speed, that's probably the number one, and then competing, getting used to like being close to each other everywhere, not just certain areas. So when I had my Gixxer coming out of corners, it was scary for me. And sometimes you don't feel right, and you just twist that throttle a little bit more, and it can send you up in the air. And always, I try to be as safe as possible. I think I don't want to push myself today. Okay, today I have to have a lot of oh shit moments, otherwise I'm not gonna learn. So with the BMW, with a lot of electronics, I started them from up high, where coming out of corner you just can pin it. There's nothing will happen, and then you keep taking it down to the point where you start feeling the power kicking in more earlier. You can see the light blinking all the time. So that definitely have helped me to improve coming out of corners. So you slowly take it off, and then you can slowly get to feel the rear going out, and you get used to it. Obviously, you need to go over and over and over to memorize it, kind of, and then you keep taking it off to the point proper to zero. I haven't gone that far yet. And then wheelie, my wheelie is off. It's been off since day one, pretty much. So I'm not afraid. If the wheel comes up, I don't do wheelies, but if the wheel comes up, I don't put it down. I stay with it. It doesn't scare me. I never had the wheel to come up very high to the point where it kicks me in the stomach. So they can't really say about that, but I think electronics definitely help. I mean, everybody uses them. MotoGP uses them.
Yeah, I agree. I got a buddy who's new. He actually raced Super Street last season and dominated on an R1M, which is kind of craziness. But I was saying to him, like, maybe you shouldn't be on a bike like all electronic up like that, because maybe I'm old school and being like, the way I learned was by the hard way, feeling it wheeling up or slipping out or whatever. And I don't know how you would learn feel, but that's interesting how you said that. I didn't realize, because I don't have much experience on bike electronics, that if you come out way off pace, you can't, it just totally intervenes. But the closer you get to doing it right, the more it gives you control. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I'm definitely planning on doing a Penguin School on a 400, one of their 400s, to rent one. I want to know how it feels like. I've never been on a 600.
Well, if you ever want to ride a fully set up 400, you can take mine. It's an extra bike, so
yeah, we can swap it.
Yeah.
Get a taste of 1,000.
Yeah.
Frenchie, what do you think?
I don't know. I don't even know the question now. I'm waiting.
Oh, okay. Well, we were talking about
He's
getting into racing and how expensive it is when you have to buy all the safety gear plus the bikes and stuff.
It's pretty much, if you want to get into racing, maybe you shouldn't start with NEMRR. I would say there's some other options like Jamie, I think you did it the cheapest way was the XR 100 race.
What's that?
When we did Supermoto, did you do like the XR 100? Did you have one?
Oh yeah, I had the 100, but I also ran 250 for a lot of years.
And that
Husky 250.
Have you ever changed the oil on that thing?
What's that?
The XR 100 is like the cheapest bike you can race. And
it's also really good class.
So
GTO is a race to do for beginners, for sure. I think every beginner is afraid of GTO. Well, I'm sorry, GT races. GTO is for the over. Because the more laps you put on, at some point, like halfway, everything is just calm, and that's when you learn the most, I feel like, towards the end. So I've definitely improved because of doing those races.
I think Frenchie's got a point, though, too. You got to get on the little bikes, like XR 100 or 150R Supermoto on little tracks. That's a good way to step in, for sure.
Yeah. MotoGP guys practice on those.
I mean, I'm not over on NEMRR, but there's other type of race we can do, and NEMRR is kind of a higher level. Once you do NEMRR, you already got the trailer, you got the bikes, you got everything. So if the question was, hey, what about a beginner? Yeah, that's going to be a lot of money the first year.
Another
Yes.
thing I used to do is you have access to all the pictures, and I would look at experts in same corner and then take one of my pictures and kind of compare them. I always do that and see where their body is, where their head is, where they're looking, and kind of, and I learn from that. And then videos is also another important thing.
Yeah, I've talked about video cameras on your bikes before, and I think it's a great way to learn what you're doing, because you can think what you're doing or how you perceive what you're doing, but the video doesn't lie. So if you think you're always on your line and then you look at your video and you're like, what the hell am I doing way the hell out there? Then you know you're not on your line. So I think video is really great. But we've been going a while here. And I want to thank all of you guys. Hang in here while I do my little exit spiel. But I want to thank everybody on the panel tonight for being here. Everybody that tuned in, I really appreciate it. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications. A thumbs up always helps the algorithm. And if you're still out there riding on twos, since we don't have a lot of snow, make sure you keep that shiny side up, rubber side down. And as always, guys, have a great evening.
Thank you.